Well, hey guys, welcome everyone to another awesome Frontly webinar. Today we're going to be building a no-code CRM using Frontly, obviously, and Google Sheets. Super excited to dive into this together. As you guys can see, I've got Patrick Kelly, CEO and founder, and Justin Yan, our support lead. We're going to be hanging out and building this app together in Frontly. So I think without further ado, we're just going to kind of dive right in and get started. I'm going to just do a little tour of what we're going to be starting to build. Rather than kind of scrambling and trying to build everything at breakneck pace, especially for people that are new to Frontly, we're just going to go through and we're going to build as much as we can during the session. And for those of you that want to get the full build, we're going to work towards getting these fully published in like a tutorial format, so you guys can get all the steps and rebuild it on your own. And it will, of course, be available as a template in the coming days after the webinar as well. Before we get started, I'm just going to throw a quick poll up. I just want to know what your level of experience is with Frontly. If you guys don't mind just clicking an option here, voting, and letting us know what your level of experience is, that would be great. Lots of newbies and some veterans. It's newbies and veterans. It's like the split. We'd like, if you're bowling, we got the 1s and the 10 pins, and that's it. Awesome.
In Frontly, I think a veteran is like 6 months.
Yeah, if you've been around for 6+ months, if you were here before the last AppSumo campaign, then you're definitely a veteran.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to just share my screen and I'll walk us through the app that we're going to be building today. So just give me 1 second to get that set up here. All right, so we got the Frontly CRM. This is all built in Frontly, obviously. We'll go through what we built in the tables in the back end, but the goal here was just to create a really straightforward CRM application, like a lot of the apps out there that you might pay $20, $30, $40, $50 a month for or more. You can build something like this, in a reasonable amount of time if you know what you're doing inside of Frontly. You can get all your contact data, you can get accounts, you can build a calendar, and you can track and manage deals. We'll go through all that here quickly. So as you can see, we've got 4 pages. We've got an accounts page. We've got a calendar page. We've got a contacts page. And we've got a deals page. And each of these has got some different buttons on it that are going to let you view different aspects of this page. For instance, on the deals page, we've got a deals pipeline with a Kanban board. You can see we can move these between different stages. We can filter by stage. We can filter by account. We only want to see what Health Plus is doing. We can see them right here. And we can filter by contact. And these are all the contacts that we have added to our list. So maybe let's see what Jane's doing. We can see that she's only got that one over there. We got a dashboard with some basic stats based on the different stages of our pipeline. And we got the ability to add new deals with a form over here. Flipping over to the contacts tab, you can see we've got a list of contacts in a table. Clicking on these contacts is going to let you go to a contact detail page where you can see contact information, information about the company they're connected with, the interaction history with that company or with that contact. You can record a new interaction, and you can see whatever deals are connected to this contact. And then similarly, over on the accounts page, we've got a list of our accounts. We got the ability to add a new account over here with a form. And we can pop this open and also see a bunch of details about the contacts, or about the companies, sorry. We can edit those details with a form. We can see who the contacts are. We can see what deals are connected there. And we have a little dashboard with some information about this. And so last page here is the calendar page. And this is going to let you view and search upcoming events. So if I go and say, add a interaction, I can go and put something for this Friday. We can say it's an email, and we'll say send an email to John, and we can save that can save that interaction. And there it is on our calendar view right there. We'll be able to see that that's been added. So lots of stuff going on in here. We got lots of relational data going on, which is when we build relationships between different spreadsheets. So I'm going to jump over and start putting this stuff together. And Patrick's going to sort of lead the commentary here as we dive into building this app. And Patrick, anything you want to say before I jump over and start building?
Nothing really. I think I think we'll end up talking a lot about the relational data just so people can try to understand that part, because it's pretty commonly used and kind of difficult to understand if you're unfamiliar with it. So yeah, let's just jump into it and we'll touch on it as we go.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to start off by creating a new app. In this situation, we're just going to go create from scratch. We're going to skip the AI flow for today, and we'll just jump right into creating an app from scratch. And we'll call this webinar CRM. And we're going to create that app. Awesome. So right now we got no pages, no data, nothing. So I'm going to start off by creating some pages, and then we'll go in and start setting up our Google Sheets. Patrick, if you want to do like some freestyle rapping in the background while we do this, that would be entertained, you know?
Sure. Well, you know what? I can even start talking about, the data structures, because I think it's a big concept. So one thing to understand is when you're building an app, like almost any app you've ever used has relationships between the different types of data. And to store the data correctly, you want to have as little data duplication as possible across your spreadsheets. So in this example, if we have a contacts spreadsheet and a company's spreadsheet, and a contact belongs to a company, instead of storing the company name and all of the company details in both sheets, you just store the company ID in the contacts sheet. And then using the relational data system, you're able to link those together. So in a CRM, it's funny because Brian and I were talking about this earlier. Like, we were thinking this would be kind of a simple example, but because of all of the different types of data relationships, it actually gets a little bit complicated. A CRM is deceptively complex. It feels kind of simple when you're using it. But basically, in our case, I think one of the most important interactions here, or connections, is between contacts and then the companies, contacts and interactions. And that's just a way of keeping track of all these different records and making sure that we know who did it. While Brian's setting this up too, I can answer a question here as well. So I'll answer this one that was just asked. So to use Frontly as a SaaS model, now assuming that you want your brand to be on the CRM for everybody, you really could do this. There are some considerations around page load times when it comes to Google Sheets. If you did have 5,000, 20,000 rows in the same sheet, I think with Frontly, it would start to get a bit slow. It'd still be possible, like depending on the level of complexity that you have in your data. One thing to keep in mind is that the number of rows is only one of the factors. The number of columns is a multiplier. So if you have 5,000 rows, but you only have 2 columns, then it's very different than if you have 25 columns. So yeah, that's something to consider. But we are looking into some options for adding some more scalable database things. It would be essentially a replacement for Google Sheets or another alternative. So I know I've probably been saying that for a while, but it's true. We had to get through this big launch, and now that we're sort of working on a few highly requested features, sometime soon I'm gonna be looking in more to some scalable database options, so that you don't have to worry about if your sheet has 5,000 rows or not. So hopefully that helps. So how's it going,
Awesome.
Brian?
Good. Yeah. So I just had to make sure I had permissions for the new spreadsheet that I just created in the wrong Google account. So if you have a dozen Google accounts like me, just keep track of that kind of thing. So what I've been doing is I've just been copying these column headers over very quickly. We're not going to go through why you would create each and every one of these in a CRM. I mean, most of them are pretty obvious, things like first name and last name. But what we're doing here is making sure that the data that's inside of each sheet is specific to this type of data. So we're not storing company data inside of the contacts sheet or contact data inside of the company sheet or any of these other sheets. Each thing is its own discrete storage area for the data relating to that page and that type of data. And that's where we're going to be setting up relational data between these different sheets so that we can access that data in the blocks that we want to access them in. So if we wanted to have a block that displayed data from both contacts and companies or companies and deals, by having that relational data, then those fields will show up inside of the block when you add the block to the page. So I'm going to start creating these relational data connections, and we'll get that set up, and hopefully everything works as expected. So in here, you're going to go into your current app. If you've never done this before, you're going to click on Google Sheets, and you're going to click Edit Relational Data. And you're going to start creating data relations in here. And because there's so many of them in this app, we'll just go through and get them all in here. But Patrick, maybe you want to just describe a little bit about how this works as I'm going along and setting this up.
Yeah, so when you create a relationship, it's always between two sheets. So Brian can select one, and he's saying here, companies and contacts are related. And then once you've selected that, you'll see the columns shows a list of columns from those sheets. And in this case, these are the columns that Brian has selected to make these relate together. So a contact has a company ID, and the companies has a company ID. And because those are the same value, then we can essentially stitch those two sets of data together. And Brian selected the display name, which basically tells it what field from the company's sheet to display in the list. So that's important because otherwise you just won't see any values in the list. And the custom ID field in the relational data setup, that is just for referencing the data. Let's see, we got some questions. So is it possible to create data relations with AI? Not right now. It's definitely something we're thinking about. I think we're actually going to do a little bit of a revision on the relational data system, hopefully sometime soon, just to make it a little bit simpler. And then once we do that, we should be able to help generate relationships between those. So that's definitely in the plans. All right, so let's see. So yeah, we're already on relationship 4 here. So we've got contacts and deals. So again, it's like we have a list of deals, we have a list of contacts, and we're saying, a deal belongs to a certain contact ID. So all the deals will just have one contact ID. And how many relationships are there in this app, Brian? Is it
7?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you can think about it like in terms of, it kind of swells as every new sheet that you add to your app. If it has to connect to the other ones in some intelligent way, then you're going to end up having to create a lot of relationships. And it depends what you need. So one thing that I think I want to point out while we're doing this is not all apps that have data that relates to each other need to have these official data relations set up. You can actually accomplish quite a lot of this stuff just by using hidden filters and field values. So, if you had a list of contacts and then you wanted to click on that contact and navigate to another page and display the related records, you could use the contact ID in a URL parameter, or you could use it if you did the custom click, the click action in a table row. You could have the custom view, and then inside the custom view, you have access to the clicked record. And so you can use that value from the click to display all the related records without it being officially connected. The reason why Brian has gone through and done this for this app is that when you use forms, and you have data relations set up, you'll actually see the related options in the select drop-down fields, which is pretty nice. And then the same thing goes for tables. So we'll talk about it a little more as we actually see them pop up here. Ken's asking about the relationship between companies and deals. Honestly, that's a good question. Since Brian built this app, I'm not going to try to answer that, but let's just see how it pans out, and we'll figure out if it's set up correctly.
Oh man, there's probably all sorts of stuff that's not set up correctly in here. I am still definitely not at the level of Patrick or probably some of you all on the webinar at this point.
Yeah, but we make Brian do it so that he can prove that it's possible to set it up. And no, I think it's true that relational data, like even I get confused when I look at the relationships, trying to decide which one should be first and which one should be second. Sometimes I just try it and see how it works. That's actually one of the reasons why I want to revise the relational data systems, because I think we don't do a good job of making it clear in the setup as much as we could have. So yeah,
I'm just going to copy over my sample data from the other spreadsheet here, so I got something to work with here. But I do want to make a great point. If you guys haven't tried this before, ChatGPT is amazing at generating sample data for you. So if you're building an app and you don't have sample data, you can paste your column headers into ChatGPT and ask it to create 5, 10, or 20 rows of sample data. And if you do that all inside of the same session with your contacts, companies, interactions, for instance, it'll actually create a pretty consistent set of sample data for you to work with. And so it's a great place to start if you don't have any data right away to work with inside of your app.
And of course, we probably should try to build that as a feature as well. I've thought about just building a standalone, like generate sample data based on these headers. But I guess I just sort of assumed if people are setting up their sheets manually, they might want a little more control. But you're right.
Yeah,
you do want to have at least a couple rows of data to start with. Otherwise, you're just going to have a hard time visualizing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the app.
Yeah. So now we've got this data in here, and you can see with this relational data, we've got all these fields from the company table as well that are available in here. I don't need to show all of these inside of this current table, but I do want to show the company name, and I'm going to put that up next to the contact's name, so it's really easy for me to see, hey, who is this company? Now, because there's no companies in the data set yet, we'll go paste some of those in there. We won't see anything in there yet, so maybe I'll just go and grab some of this company data as well, and we'll just toss that in. And every time you go and add new data to your sheet, you can just click refresh data. And because I'm not on that sheet, I actually have to go back to here and Google Sheets, and I can go refresh data and headers. So if you're ever confused and you don't see your data showing up in there, make sure you go in, click on your Google Sheets, and refresh your data and headers, and that'll make sure that that data gets loaded in. So now you can see we've got that company name attached in here, and that company name is connected to that ID, and we're going to use that in multiple places through the app here. So we can go, we can show and hide a few different things inside of here if we want to remove certain stuff. Maybe we want to take off the next interaction date. And we can change how these appear as well. So the follow-up status, for instance, we can change this to a badge. So now we've got a nice colorful badge appearing in this block. And we can go and even change those badge colors based on the values that are in here. So we could add, on track can be green. And we can say overdue is red. And if you have multiple pieces of information in here, you can use the split badges setting, and it'll break those out into separate badges. So if you have like comma separated values in a single cell, you could maybe like tags, for instance, you can have those all show up in your status. Awesome. So we've got our initial contact sheet here. Now let's move on to doing the same thing over on our accounts page. Actually, before we do that, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. Never mind. All right. So we're going to just change this to accounts. And same thing in here, you're going to see a whole lot of data from other sheets in here. You got deal data, you got contact data. And so this is going to be great for any form that I want to create or any type of data display I want to do that brings that data together at the company level. But for now, we're just going to turn a bunch of these off because they're not relevant to this current form. Awesome. Okay, we got our company in here. You see how quick and easy it is to get your data from Google Sheets into a block and format it and design it for your use inside of Frontly. And this is just the most basic of blocks. I mean, this is just a table that we're taking from Google Sheets and bringing it over into here. But where the real power comes in is when you can start adding row actions and the ability to, edit and modify records just by clicking on them. And we'll get to that in just a sec here. Let's go over and create the Kanban board on our deals page. And we're going to go deal status. Now, because we don't have any data in that, we're going to actually have to go and bring over some sample data once again from the sheet. So I do recommend, if you're going to be building from scratch like this, that you try and get a bunch of sample data into your sheet before you start building with it. It's just going to make everything easier. You're going to see stuff show up as you're building, rather than wondering if you're doing the right thing while you're working on it. So strongly recommend having some sample data in there.
Yeah, and one thing that Les mentioned as well, like, yeah, if you do start with our AI app generator, then you will have sheets and data. So
yes. Yeah.
Probably if you're going to go to the extent of doing that, it's probably useful to at least start with that. And then if you end up changing your mind about certain fields, you need to adjust things later, it's probably still a lot faster than starting from scratch. So something to keep in mind.
For sure. Now, one of the things I'm doing here, because Frontly is going to populate these columns based on the data that's in your spreadsheet. If you have additional data that you want to be able to add, like deal stages, for instance, in this Kanban board that maybe don't exist in your sample data yet, in the column setting under your setup on the Kanban board, you can just go in and start adding these. And what happens is whenever you move one of these cards into this new column, even if there's no data in the sheet stored in that column with that ID yet, it'll add that or modify the deal status field to whatever is in this column. So we can have as many columns as you want to have in your Kanban flow. And each time you move it, it's going to update that deal status field to match whatever this is set up as. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a few of these here right now. Okay. I feel the silence. I feel eyeballs burning into the back of my head as I try to do this.
I mean, I think it's kind of funny. People get to, there may be a few boring moments, but at the same time, like this is the reality of building a Frontly app, which is that it really is just sort of step by step. The more that you know what you want in advance, the better it's going to go. If you have clarity on what you're trying to achieve up front, like I'd recommend actually sitting down and like mapping it out. Like, what pages do I need? What, interactions do I need? And then, you can build those as you go. Absolutely.
Yeah, and another spot here where, again, this relational data comes in is in your Kanban cards. So if I want to have fields from both, the company and the deal or the contact, right now I've got all of those available inside of here. So I can make my Kanban card, contain the company name can make that a little bit bigger. And I can even add the contact name, all of which, you know, are being stored in their own respective spreadsheets and not all being jumbled around by copying that data across multiple places. Oh, that's way too big. That's even too big.
Yeah, that's
there we go. There we go.
More reasonable.
Awesome. All right, so we got some deals in here, and these are all formatted. And this is it. I mean, you've got essentially your Kanban flow at this point. You can do all sorts of things with this. You can edit the detail view, which we can get into. We're going to go back and edit the detail view for contacts before we dive into this. But you can make that detail view essentially be the default view when you click on any of these records. Or you can create a totally custom view for them that's an entirely different page. You can have a custom action that does all sorts of different things. It can trigger automations. You can send an email. For instance, when I go from proposal sent to in negotiation, I could have it trigger an email that gets sent to my boss who says, hey, I sent that proposal and we're now in negotiations with, you know, EduFuture for their new project. That's all doable from inside of Frontly. All right. And so we're going to go back to the contacts and we're going to actually jump into that detail view. Now, as I was just saying, when you create a detail view, the detail view inside of here, even the custom view, is linked to this block, which means that if you want to go to that detail view from some other part of the app, you would either have to replicate that entire detail view. Maybe an idea for a future feature, Patrick. we can save custom detail views. But
I mean, you can copy blocks now. So you can,
yes, that's true. Yeah, you can copy your blocks.
Save
absolutely,
and then inject it into a detail view. I suppose somebody can try that and tell us if it works.
But yeah, I think what we're going to do here is essentially a custom action, because what we want to do is send them to a page, and we're going to hide that page in the navigation, and that page is going to act as our contact detail view. And so what we're going to do here is go custom action, and that by clicking on custom action, or by clicking on a record, you can now trigger this custom action inside of here. And so what we're going to do with this custom action is we're going to send people to a page, which is going to be the contact details page. We're not going to open in a new window. And when we send them over there, we're going to use some URL parameters to bring data from that page over into this new page, so that it populates with the data that's relevant to the record that's being clicked. So, you know, the variables and URL parameters are really, really powerful. Patrick, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that for people who aren't familiar with how that works inside of Frontly as I go ahead and set this up.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because most people, again, like most actual apps that you use are using parameters in the URL to determine which page we're viewing. This is probably like any, you know, if you go to a YouTube channel, it's going to be like youtube.com/whatever, some random ID or something like that. That's, you know, that's how most software works, is that there's some identifier for this page that is determining which data we should be grabbing from the database or from the Google Sheet. And so in this case, as Brian mentioned, like you could set some of this up in the custom detail view, but that stays on the same page. It's sort of this like temporary pop-up. But what you probably want in a lot of situations is a dedicated page that you can go to, and depending on the ID or IDs in the URL, depending on what you pass in, you can fetch that data. So what's cool about this is that, you know, you could actually send this link to this specific detail view to somebody like on your team, whereas you can't do that if it's in a custom detail view, because it's just a pop-up. So if you send the link, it would just take them to the regular page. So I think what we're going to do here, oh yeah, I guess we're going to set up hidden filters probably, right? Or is that, oh, so right now, this is a,
So right now we're setting up the list data that's going to load when you click on that link. And so in order to do that, we're going to grab that URL parameter that we just added on the click, which was contact ID. And so that contact ID data is now being referenced in this variable. So this URL parameter brings this data over so that it knows, hey, you clicked on this row or on this row that has this contact ID connected to it. And when you arrive on this page, it's going to load the specific contact data inside of here. And we can use that to create all sorts of filters and other things as well, so that, we only interact with this person's records inside of the app. So right now, if I go back over to my contacts page and I click preview and I cross my fingers that we did everything correctly, by clicking on any one of these records, so I see I did something wrong. So there's something, probably a typo inside of here. So let's just check this quickly. So we got custom click actions, navigate to page, and we're using record contact ID to bring that over. Okay.
Well, it looked like the values were in the URL. Do you want to maybe just check the values in that page and see if they looked like they were correct?
Okay, let's just go back to contacts.
So yeah, you can see that we have contact company and we have contact ID.
Yeah.
Looked like there was an extra space after client ID. Could be possible. Yeah, I think maybe let's check the this setup here.
Oh, so let's go back to contacts and here, custom click action. So these look correct. Record contact ID, company ID. Yeah, those are both correct.
I think it might be on the info list. Maybe we need to make sure that we've selected the correct column.
Yeah, Brian,
right?
you've clicked, it's searching through the Frontly ID right now. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
That's going to do better for us. So this is also what I spend a lot of my time in Frontly doing, staring at it and being like, what did I click? How is it supposed to work? So as you can see, actually right now, because there's nothing that's been clicked, there's no data loaded in here. If we go to the contacts page and click here, then boom, there we go. That's what we needed to do.
There we go. One thing to mention around that is, like, if you do decide to create a page that always requires an ID or in the URL in order to function, then probably you want to hide it from the navigation, which is actually really easy to do. You can just go to your settings, navigation, and then click on that page. So contact details in this case, and just hide from navigation. So that's good, because you don't want anyone to just go to that page. It'll always be broken if they navigate to it through the navigation. So there you go. Trial and error. The thing about Frontly is it's powerful, but because it's powerful, there's a lot of different ways that you can make little mistakes. And that's half the fun.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things Patrick and I just talked about with relational data is maybe defaulting these to being off when you add a new block.
There's a lot of related fields that are getting automatically set by default to show in your table. And so we might try to find a better way to do that. But the fact that they're available is important.
Yes, exactly. Sure. Let's just leave it at that for now. So right now, what we want is for this block to load only the company that is related to this user. So we know that company 1001, ID 1001 over here, is the company that we want to load in this instance. And Patrick, you were talking earlier about how we can essentially use Frontly IDs to do this as well. But in this instance, we've created a custom company ID in case you're working with a company that has their own, internal identification systems or some other numbering system other than the Frontly ID that you want to maintain.
Yeah, like I think a good example is if you're doing some sort of e-commerce related thing where your products like have an SKU, which is like this, sort of a unique value, could be anything. If you don't want to use the Frontly ID value, you still need to have it in your sheet. Don't delete it. But if but if you want to use these like Brian did, he actually used the contact ID field, which is a custom field, or the company ID field to build most of these relations. So you can do a lot with these different things. All right, so now you're setting up the related company information in the same manner that you did with with another URL parameter, right?
And we're making sure we got the right ID selected. So, somehow I got a double set of braces in here. So we got
injected a variable inside a variable.
Oh yeah, we're getting crazy. Double variable injection. And so what we're going to do in this is going to just bring over the contact company data. And so now if we click save on this, and we can just go back to our contacts page and do a refresh on here. You don't actually have to click preview every single time. And you can see now that contact detail page has disappeared from the menu, but we can still access it by clicking on this link. And here you can see we've got Green Solutions, company ID 1002, and this is Jane Smith. So she's connected to this company, and these are the 2 records now that are connected to this user.
So Brian, I'm just thinking, for the sake of time, I wonder if maybe we should jump to adding 2 buttons and creating the toggle switch between these 2, because that might be interesting for people to see. And also, absolutely. I think we're probably just going to add like a tabs block, because
that's essentially what I made.
I've seen enough people try to create tabs by using like different buttons and stuff like that. And so I think just a simple tab navigation block could be really useful, especially with local state. So we added a row, going to add some buttons inside this row and use them essentially as tabs to like toggle back and forth between the different states of this page.
So one of the things we'll do with this button to show off the beauty of this new custom CSS, buttons are a great use case for this. So on this button, before we go and create any more buttons, we're going to set up this button the way we want it to be so that we can duplicate it using the new save blocks feature, or just by duplicating it directly. But if we wanted to duplicate this button and use it in other parts of the app, we can then save our button with the custom CSS and any actions associated with it as its own unique custom button that we can then add from the new block custom list, where it will show up in there when we've created it. So I know Patrick is always scared of people going too crazy with the CSS. We've already seen some pretty amazing examples of what people can do with this. Because I'm not a CSS expert, I get ChatGPT again to write all my CSS for me. And in this case, and that's maybe another area where we could talk about integrating AI, Patrick, is
that's true, actually. Just get it to generate some CSS.
Yeah. So in this case, I just wanted to have a little hover with a transform, little hover over and change the size of the button, and there we go. And if you wanted to get really crazy, you could make it like really get big just to make sure it's working. There we go.
That's pretty awesome.
Classic. I know Patrick's rolling over in his sleep, having nightmares about this right now. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to use this to control display conditions for these blocks. And we're going to use a local state variable in order to do this. So Patrick, did you want to talk a little bit about local state variables?
Yeah, I think so. So in Friendly, the local state is essentially a place you can store values and reference them. And that's how you will really be using incorporating interactivity into your app beyond what we're already offering. So when Brian's user clicks this button, it's going to update a special custom value. What do you have the name in there?
It's just called contact detail view.
Okay, so you can call it whatever you want, and in this case, the value is going to be list. And so now we're going to set up, I guess, a matching display condition, so that only this info list will only appear when that value matches that. So we've got contact detail view equals list. And I guess
I'm gonna
we're
set it.
basically just going to repeat that process. Oh yeah, default values, really cool. You add these two weird vertical bars that I don't know what they're called, but they're somewhere on your keyboard. And you can set a default value, and that's really powerful, so that when you load this page, it's not just going to be blank until you click one of the buttons. So I think basically we just have to do the same thing now for the other, or I guess you could duplicate the button.
What we'll do though, before we just click duplicate, is we're going to just save this as a custom block, just because. So we'll click save as custom block, and we'll call this hover button. We'll say it grows when you hover.
Nice.
Awesome. So now I could just click duplicate block, but that means I wouldn't be able to use this button outside of this page very easily. So in order for me to do that, I can then go in here and under custom.
I think you have to refresh the page right now to see the
do you?
The custom block. I'm going to fix that, but yeah, it just takes
a
second to
load in. Magic refresh button. So we got the hover button in here, and boom, it's added it. I guess I wasn't inside of my row, so I'll just move that up. You can just select the row that I've created, and you can just go add block, and you can select the button that you already created and just move it into that row. And now we can call this company info, and we're just going to change some of these parameters. So we'll go in and under the click action, we'll just say company. Same contact detail view. And under companies, we'll set some display conditions as well.
Now, here's a bonus suggestion for someone in the community if they want to try to figure out how to do it with CSS and variables. I think there's probably a way to make it so that the button shows like an active color when it's the one that's selected versus the other one. I haven't tested it, but I have a feeling it's probably possible. So we'll see if anyone can figure that out.
Awesome. So we're going to click on this, and you can see that company info is hidden, and it's defaulted to showing this contact info card. So now if I click on this button, it doesn't show because I probably made a typo. Oh man.
All right.
If I had $1 for every typo that I make when I'm doing this.
So contact detail view.
This is the issue, because I do this all the time. You have to have local state variable brackets around your variable. So don't be like me and just paste in the name. You got to click. You can click this to add that local state, or you can just type the curly braces and put local state dot and put your variable in there. I've spent enough time banging my head on the wall being like, why isn't this working? Again, I should really reiterate, I am not a programmer. If that's not obvious to you guys yet, I am definitely not a programmer or developer. I've done a bit of CSS in edited websites, but most of what I've done has been in no-code things like WordPress and MailChimp and other drag and drop editors like that. And so, you know, the fact that I've been able to figure out how to build a relatively powerful web application with literally zero technical training on that front should give you hope if you're a non-technical user and you do the same kind of things as I do. You too can build a fully functional web application inside of Friendly. So now we've got our 2 tabs, and we can keep going. You can keep adding more information in here. You could add forms. You could do all sorts of really powerful stuff that would let you essentially add and remove data and edit your data relating to that contact specifically. And that's what's, I think, really exciting about Friendly is just that ability to do this multi-layered editing and interactions with your data inside of your spreadsheets without ever having to look at a spreadsheet for more than a few moments to set it up in the first place. So we're at 149, 150. Patrick, do you want to answer some more questions, and I'll just keep kind of like
I think that's a good idea. I gotta leave in about 11 minutes. So let's check on a few questions. So we've got some from Les. So he asked, here, I'll do the answer live. If I move a deal stage over in the Kanban, it can trigger a follow-up email to someone. Yes. So the Kanban, if you go into I think it's like the advanced in the more or advanced tab, you'll find the Kanban, I think it's called item
move
the
action,
item move action. So that's triggered. And if you use the record variable, so like record dot whatever, that will have the updated value in it, I believe. So you could test it out. Maybe just start with a notification. That's what I always suggest to people. If you're unsure about if your variables are working, I would always start by using a notification so that you can just see if the value is the one you're expecting. And then from there, yes, you can use it in an email. One thing to note about rich text and sending an email, which is also using the rich text editor, is that there isn't the little variable injector in those fields because it's the whole rich text. It's a little more complicated, but you can type variables into those values. So if you have to start by using one of the other fields that has the injector to like figure out which variable is correct and then paste it in, you can do that. So yeah, you can see Brian set it up. It says you did it when you move the card. And what's really cool is that because we have the conditional actions where you can create different pathways, you can actually set it up where it only shows a certain notification or triggers a certain action if you dragged it into a certain column. So I know I've helped some people figure that out. And yeah, it can be really powerful. Like Brian was mentioning earlier in the example, like maybe only when the stage gets moved to complete or something, then a certain action runs. So there's
like record status, and we could say if deal status equals what's one of the statuses on here, proposal sent.
Then we can say
you sent the proposal.
So that's pretty important to get familiar with, the idea of these sort of running actions conditionally, because it really opens up a lot of power. And you can add as many, I think you can add as many root steps as you want, which are essentially the start of their own pathways that you have to set conditions for. We'll never run more than one pathway. So basically we're always going to find the first one that matches a condition, and then we're going to run with it. So that's how that works. And let's see.
So now because it didn't go to proposal sent, it's giving an error. Whereas when you send it to proposal sent, it's also saying you sent the proposal. So we've got sort of two different versions.
Nice.
It sends the first notification and the second notification at the same time because we don't have like a time delay or anything in there. But you can get really crazy with these. We could spend a long time just messing around and creating stuff in here. Oh, I didn't want to do
that. Someone asked if we can make an undo and redo function. That's a great idea. It's easier said than done, but I can appreciate how nice that would be. So it's something I'll look into.
Any other big burning questions that you guys have?
Somebody, Mr. P, was asking for more basic tutorials, more noob tutorials, as he said. I think that's a good point. We decided that when we started doing these webinars, we wanted to try doing some more like technical things, some AI and some things like that. But we're also hoping to keep, creating some more simpler examples as well. Like we know that there's people at different stages using these things. So we appreciate everyone attending, and hopefully you all learn at least one thing from a webinar. And if that's true, then we feel like we've succeeded. But you can always reach out to our team. Even better probably is interacting with the Discord community. As you've seen, if you've been in there, it's pretty wild. It's basically like a party, except it's an app building party. So it's a lot of knowledge in there, a lot of really smart people that are 6+ month veterans. And so, yeah, we're going to keep building content. We'll make sure we post the Discord link again. And we will, we'll probably make, every time we do a webinar, we'll try to release it as a template. Usually it'll take us a couple days to kind of convert that over, but but yeah, so that's great. I mean, we could go on forever with these app builds, so it's like we kind of have to just cut it off. I think anything that you were confused about during this process, if you feel like we went way too fast or whatever, for one, there will be a recording. But even then, if you feel like we just skimmed over something because of time, obviously, join the Discord, ask questions. You'll probably get an answer in about 12 seconds on Discord. And if anything can't be resolved there, we're always happy to chat as well.
Absolutely. And, just to go back on what people were saying about noob tutorials, what I found is really helpful is like to start with your vision for what you want to create and start breaking it out into little chunks. And I know we've talked a lot about this with this app specifically. I want to go through and do like a full step-by-step with all the stages and steps for everything you need to do to build this. Because it really took me a few tries to understand how to get relational data working and how to use variables and hidden filters to make that all work. So yeah, we do want to break that down into more sort of digestible chunks for you guys and make it easier for new users to get into building their apps. But there is a good tutorial that Justin has, a little course builder. Was it a course program or educational program or something like that?
Student teacher portal thing. Yeah, I'm hoping to really evolve from that now that my own knowledge at Frontly has grown too, without a doubt.
Yeah, we're going to keep revamping tutorials as we learn and the platform grows. There's also a lot of things to improve there. One thing we just want to touch on before the webinar is up. So yeah, we're going to be sending out a special offer to everyone who is signed up on the list. So the offer will be different depending on, obviously, if you're an existing paid user, if you purchase through one of our promotions and you want to upgrade, then we'll have an offer for you. And if you're a brand new user, then we'll have a nice discount for anyone that attended the webinar. So check your email for the announcement / link to your custom offer. And we're happy to chat in more detail, especially for people who already have an account. If there's any confusion around how to upgrade or, depending on your plan, we're happy to talk about it. We know there's a lot of people on different plans and stuff. So yeah, we'll be sending out some offers there. And thanks to everybody. We really appreciate the attendance. Even now that things are settling down a bit after our big promotion, to see there's still, 50 people on this live call is pretty amazing. So thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. This has been great. And we'll keep chatting over on Discord and keep your eyes out for the next webinar. We're going to keep doing these. We're going to keep building stuff and lots more exciting stuff coming down the pipe from us over here at Friendly.
Cool. See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
You're
everybody.
the best. Bye.